Alright, so we've got this article here that is in a PDF format. Mind control articles by the New York Times. And I've been saying this for a while now. I've had a couple of videos that I've put up that are related to this topic. K-Ultra, Operation Mockingbird, the CIA involvement in propaganda and creating pliable people, whether it be for interrogation purposes or as agents of their device, whatever they decide. Okay? So somebody has written an article. The author is Dr. Rowney Clyde or Clyde. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that one. It's a very interesting name. However, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Anyway, mind control articles by the New York Times. When the New York Times exposed the CIA project of behavior modification in July 1977, then General Director of the secret institution, Stansfield Turner, had to testify at the Senate hearings on August 3, 1977. He gave an account of a CIA establishment network including 80 medical universities, hospitals, and prisons, together with 185 high-ranking U.S. scientists, researchers, and doctors. It was mentioned that the program had been under the director of the CIA, Allen Dulles, in 1953. This was something Professor John C. Lilly described in his memoirs, The Scientist. He said that the director's 1953 proposed that he join the CIA and participate in experiments, but he refused, and the reason he gave for this was also explained in his book. Dr. Antoine Ramond, using the techniques in Paris, had demonstrated that stimulation of the brain can be applied to humans without the help of a neurosurgeon. He is doing this in his clinic. This means that anybody with the proper apparatus can carry this out on a person covertly with no external signs that electrodes have been used on that person. I feel that if this technique gets into the hands of secret agency, they could have total control over human beings and be able to change his behavior extremely quickly. Today, injectable biochips are being utilized in hospitals around the world. And the issue has, with increased levels of usage, become even more shrouded by secrecy and conspiracy of silence. They actually, just a note here, not in the article, they actually, when you get a knee replacement or a hip replacement or, something like that, and they put an artificial joint in there, those artificial joints, many of them, probably more now than there were, say 5-10 years ago, have a chip in them, have a chip inside of the actual unit that they're installing in your body. They say it's for tracking their product, but really they could track you as well in the process. During the summer of 1977, the New York Times published 30 articles about the CIA and mind control. But 10 years before that, they already published the first editorial demanding the public debate for the threat under the heading Push-Button People. As stated in their first editorial on mind control, 10th of April, 1967, in relation to the possible political applications they mentioned, it is quite convincible that some countries' investigations may be underway in the possibility of using these techniques to control human beings. The mere existence of such a possibility is disturbing and certainly merits a wider public discussion and greater attention than it has received up until now. Britain, Sweden, the U.S. Britain, Sweden, and the U.S. were among these nations. 3 years later, another editorial was published on September 19, 1970. The New York Times editorial Brainwave about the danger posed by mind control made the following point. If George Orwell were writing a sequel to 1984 today, he would probably reject as archaic the propaganda techniques for controlling people's minds. They suggested that today he might envision a society which A newborn baby first experiences would be neurosurgery, an operation in which the child's brain was fitted with a miniaturized radio device connected to every major center controlling reason and emotion. They knew what was going on, but had no success in bringing about public debate on the issue. Of course not, because the CIA's Project Operation Mockingbird was a propagandized thing for the news. So if they were trying to publish something and the CIA didn't want it out there, it wasn't going out there. You weren't going to see it. 25 years later, the U.S. Senator John Glenn, in trying to regulate the abuse and said in a speech in the Senate, I hope to be able to assure the people that in my own home state of Ohio, and those around the country, that the government is no longer conducting experiments unknown to the individual. The situation in Europe is the same, and the EU's ethical board even published a declaration against mind control in 2005. They wrote, How far should we be subject to the control of such devices or by other people using these devices? And ended with the words, the member states have a responsibility to create conditions for a constructive, well-informed debate in this area. This is the most important subject in today's world. Mass media have a responsibility to open up that debate, so we must all show support for such actions. Neither they nor the population in general would choose to live with a state chip in their brains. What is mind control? Norway, 2014. Now that explains why I can't pronounce the doctor's name properly. It's a Norwegian name. I don't speak anything close to that. In terms generally associated with conspiracy theories, is in fact 50-year-old ongoing techno-political projects. It was with the development of the first supercomputers that systems for controlling the mind, brain, and behavior were established. These were elements of the new science of cybernetics, which became public in 1948 when the American professor Norbert Wiener published his book with the same title. The researcher's mind control project is the most often classified as behavior or cognitive manipulation from the very beginning. More than half a century ago, it was possible to intercept thoughts, memories, and sensory functions such as sight or hearing. Cybernetics was also the first science they could not only measure and analyze what came in contact with, but also change the processes. So anyway, it's just a really interesting take on what's going on right now. There are most definitely things going on, and there have been things going on since the 1940s. After World War II, particularly, I think that when Project Paperclip brought all the scientists from Germany, a lot of them had been working on this technology there, and the U.S. brought these people in and continue to work on the technology. What they failed to do was realize that, along with the Nazism and the corruption in that department and the inhumane treatment of people, these scientists were doing things that were also inhumane to people, and they were trying to change free will. That's an issue that we all need to be concerned about. Today, we recently, in the last few months, had an election where the American people elected Donald Trump as president, which he will take office in a couple weeks. But during this presidential campaign, some of us did not fall for the garbage that was being fed to us on the mainstream news, and others did, with everything about their being. Some of them were so adamant with this cognitive dissonance that they believed every little thing that came out of papers like New York Times and Washington Post and the stations like CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, so on. In any case, we've been having this issue with this mind control and propaganda system for many years, since the end of World War II. This is not a new thing. This is not it's not something new. It isn't. So, I would suggest, as an awake human being, if you're watching this, go and do some research on these mind control things, and then think about what else could possibly be affecting it. I have a friend who has a theory that the smart meters could be sending these same brain signals to you, that you perhaps might be, getting this information sent via that. This is something that could be wirelessly done. The information in your brain is just electrical signals, and if you disrupt them or disturb them by sending other signals, they may cancel those signals out, or you may be able to alter the way the person thinks. Not only that, but you may be able to feed them information, propaganda, and have them be a lot more faithful to that propaganda than, say, other people. Now, I don't watch television on a broadcast station. I don't watch cable. The only time I watch a show is if I watch it on the computer, and I don't seem to have the issues of believing everything I hear before I do research on it. I do research on everything anyway, but I have friends who watch television who are close by to me. They watch it on a regular basis. Every single one of them seems to be a staunch believer in some of the crazier things that aren't true that the news tells you. And so, take into consideration these things. See what you might think. This is not a conspiracy theory. These are facts. They have done these mind control projects, and they have put propagandized information in our news and our colleges for many, many, many years. I'm talking about 80 years this has been going on. I mean, that's crazy. It started out in Germany, and a lot of the, Nazi stuff, it started out, and it's progressively gotten to us, and it's gotten way out of hand. And, you know that whatever our military has for technology that you can see on the face, whatever our government's got, they're probably about 40 years ahead of that. They're not going to tell you what they're doing, and they're not going to let stuff leak out like MK Ultra and Operation Mockingbird and Paperclip's information about who they had hired from Germany and so on. Anyway, you can find this article. I will leave the link to it, to the PDF for this article, in the bottom of the video, and I'm going to sign off because this video has gotten kind of long. But just keep in mind some of those things that I've mentioned, and if you have a moment in time where you can sit down and read this, it's pretty interesting. And you can do some research. Things like Paperclip, Mockingbird, and MK Ultra are readily available to find out about. The Freedom of Information Act also has allowed a lot of the data and information on these projects to be free to the public. Alright, well, stay safe, stay real, and stay true. You have a good one. Bye.